Hi everyone, and welcome back to National Graduate Week 2022. Thank you so much all for joining. But I'm really excited to be introducing this session to you today. As normal, it will be recorded, so you will be able to come back to it later and revisit, or if you need to take notes or find out more information, you'll be able to come back and look at these slides later again. And other than that, definitely use the chat function. Particularly today, if you're having any technical difficulties, type in the chat. If you can't hear us, if you can't see us, if there's anything going on, let us know in the chat. Other than that, you can use the chat for all of your questions. So if you have questions that come up as we go along, drop them in the chat. Otherwise, there will be time for a Q&A at the end, so you'll be able to ask all your questions then as well. And other than that, I think that is all from me. So I'll hand over to the team and to talk to you about a career in insurance, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, everybody. My name is John Keppel from Zurich Insurance. I am the Chief Sustainability Officer here at Zurich. We did hope to have some slides for you today, so we'll try and get those working in the background so that we can talk to you all. But I'm got the pleasure of doing a bit of an introduction, hopefully giving you a sense of what it feels like to work in insurance. Those of you who think I have a slight lilt in my accent will probably have picked up that I'm from the Southern Hemisphere originally. I came to the UK after school and studied in the UK and met my wife at university and have been here ever since. I've been with Zurich about 6 years and I'm just in my 6th year now. I was originally the Chief Operating Officer for the UK business and I am now Chief Sustainability Officer. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a sense about insurance. I think it's something that's part of everybody's life, but actually a lot of people don't know what it's like to work in insurance and what an insurance company kind of feels like to work in. There are a multitude of roles, as broad, frankly, as it is long in terms of an industry. There are a huge number of things that you can get involved with. I myself did a sports science degree, but we have maths graduates, we have politics graduates, we have all shapes and sizes in the organization coming from all sorts of academic backgrounds. We also have a number of people that stay in the industry for a very long time. I had a career prior to coming to Zurich in professional services and consulting and technology, but a multitude of people have come in through graduate intakes, through internships, or through many other routes into the business. So what's an insurance company all about? We're about offering protection to organizations and individuals, trying to make sure that they can sustain their livelihoods, their businesses, their families. That's what we do for a day job. We make sure that whether it's a public sector organization or a corporate entity or perhaps a small business or an individual's family and property, we make sure that there's protections in place if things go bad and in times of need. We have a number of stakeholders that we focus on in how we do that. We're obviously a corporate entity, so we have a bunch of shareholders. We try and deliver a positive business outcome for those shareholders, but they're only one of 4 stakeholder groups that we have within Zurich. So our stakeholder groups include those shareholders, but it also includes all of us, the employees that work here. And all of those stakeholder groups that we have, the 4 of them, are all on the same level field. So our employees are just as important to us as our shareholders. Our customers and partners are also one of those stakeholder groups. And the final one is our planet and communities. And obviously, as Chief Sustainability Officer, I'm particularly keen on the planet and communities one, as most of my role focuses on what we can do and what we are continuing to do to make the world a better place and to support the communities in which we work. So we've set out those 4 stakeholder groups. We pretty much conduct all of our business focused on the needs and the outcomes for those 4 groups. And then we've had some pretty good results. I mean, the insurance industry over the last few years has had some hurdles to get through for sure. We've had some pretty big events that as a country and as a world we've had to battle through. But I'm delighted to say that certainly Zurich is in a great place and has been a great place to work. We've been in existence for about 150 years. We've been here in the UK for 100 years. We've just had our 100th year anniversary and got a load of people together to celebrate that event. We've also been working really hard to raise the profile, our profile as an employer, and make ourselves as attractive as we can to new entries and new potential entries like yourselves, and also attracting people from other industries. And I'm delighted to share that we're 16th, ranked 16th in Glassdoor in 2022, which is a really, really high ranking. And for those of you who are familiar with Glassdoor, that's somewhere where individuals can go and rate their organizations that they work for completely anonymously, without the input from the company. So it's great to see all the effort that we've put into trying to make Zurich a great place to work has been recognized through our Glassdoor rankings. We're also a growing business. We've attracted nearly 100,000 net new customers in 2021. We haven't obviously got that number yet for 2022, but we're a growing business and we grow in different parts of our market. We're quite a broad-based business that we'll probably get onto during the course of today's call. And we support a significant number of the biggest corporate entities, certainly in the UK. About 83 of the FTSE 100 organizations in the UK are our customers, and we're very proud of it. Something else that we're extremely proud of is what we do for our customers by way of claims. We pay out somewhere in the region of £2 billion in claims every year. And that's a number that means a lot to the people that work in Zurich. That's the proof of the pudding, if you like, from having insurance, is that we can absolutely be there for our customers when their businesses, when their families, etc., need us. And so, you know, we talk often about how much we're paying out on claims, how quickly we're able to pay that out to people in need, to make sure that we can restore whatever it is that's gone wrong as quickly as we possibly can. You wouldn't expect me, I don't think, to talk for very long, or certainly no one in Zurich would expect me to talk for very long without talking about our sustainability ambitions. You know, Zurich aims to be one of the most responsible and impactful companies in the world. That's part of our global ambition, and that's absolutely recognized here in the UK. And we have a strong commitment to both our own net zero journey. We expect to be fully net zero in all of our operations globally by 2030. That's 20 years earlier than the original 2050 targets that were laid out. And we are working extensively with a number of our customers who work in far heavier industries than we do, to make sure that we're challenging and prompting them to be far more active in their own journeys towards a low carbon economy. So pretty much all of my job now is focused on making sure that we're challenging ourselves and challenging the customers and communities that we work with to increase the pace on our collective journey to a net zero world. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an overview. I'm going to stay on the call for a little while. I'm happy to answer a few questions in the Q&A as we go through. But I hope you enjoy today's call. And with that, I'll hand you over to Sophie.
And thank you all for joining us this afternoon for our webinar. I'm not sure what slides you can see, but hopefully you can see our graduate programs slide. So just to introduce myself, my name's Sophie LaRusso, and I'm responsible for all of our early and careers recruitment here at Zurich, covering our graduate, intern and apprenticeship opportunities. Obviously, it's National Graduate Week, here to talk to you today about our graduate programs. So our graduate programs have been running for a number of years now and are a really kind of key area of our business, something that Zurich are really passionate about, bringing in a number of graduates into the business every single year. And we recruit across a number of different streams, which you'll hear from today. So we have our business management program, we recruit into finance, actuarial, our change and technology program, data and analytics, and we're also going to talk to you today about a new program that we're launching in sustainable energy, which hopefully follows really nicely on from the talk that you've had from John today. So the wider graduate programme, obviously it's a role, it's a programme, all underpinned by lots of development and support that you will receive. So our graduate programme manager, Jess, will support you throughout your time in Zurich. You'll also be supported by your line manager and your day-to-day rotation manager, if that's appropriate for the programme that you're a part of. You'll also receive support from a buddy and a mentor, and that's really important. We really recognise that transition from university into the workplace and want to make that as smooth as possible and make sure that we feel that you're well supported in that. So there's a whole plethora of a support network available to you. Most of our graduate programmes also offer the opportunity for a professional qualification, each vary depending on the business area that you would apply to, and hopefully you'll get some insight into that as we go through today's sessions. And the great news is our graduate programme is based all over the UK, different programmes based in slightly different locations. And again, we can share those details with you today, but hopefully you'll find that we offer some fantastic programmes, something that will feel that it fits to whatever it is that you want to do next after your studies. So that's an overview of the graduate programme. I'm going to come back later to talk to you a little bit more about the application process and some hints and tips for you. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand over to Zeenat, who will talk to you about our Change and Technology programme.
My name is Zeenat. I'm on the Change and Tech Management scheme, and I started last year in September. So what I'll start with is a quick overview of kind of our department and then of the grad scheme. So our department is Ops and IT, and I think in that we have about 12 different areas, ranging from an innovation foundry to our supplier management team, through to our technical developers, and we also have service delivery who kind of manage the internal IT network as well. There are definitely roles for everyone. I'm not a technical person. I don't want anyone to think that I'm super savvy and technical, but that's something I've definitely developed in. And you don't have to be technical to be part of our department. I think a common misconception is that insurance is all customer facing and maths and IT is all technical, and that's just not the case. So my specific program is, again, the Change and Tech one, as it can clearly be seen. And in that you do 6 rotations. You do your core project management rotation, which is something that the Ops and IT department really encourage, because project managers are heavily used throughout our department. And you do a core business analyst rotation. The best way I can describe a business analyst is a translator between the business people, so our insurance people, and our technical developers, to make sure that we're delivering good end products for our customers, who are actually our fellow colleagues who work to serve the actual customers. So there are other rotations you can do as well. It's not just BA and PM ones. There are architecture ones. So we do business architecture, which look kind of at the grand scheme of things, and we have many architecture roles that you can do. We have service management, which you can obviously work with service delivery, who look at, again, the internal IT network. But there's a plethora of things you can get involved in. There's also, I think the most surprising thing for me was the opportunities that you can get as a grad. So again, I joined in September 2021. And since then, I've done many things alongside my graduate job. So the first thing I did was I was a project manager, which is part of my graduate job, on a massive program, and I was one of many project managers. So there's different ways you can work. I have colleagues now who are project managers on their own project. I have a colleague who's running a release for us. But now, so that was my first rotation, and I'm now a business analyst who is running a project. I'm the lead VA for a project in our municipals business. So they insure like our housing services, our like fire services, and schools, charities, and stuff like that, social organisations. And I'm leading a project there to create a new kind of platform for our underwriters to use, for the people who write the insurance. So that's been really exciting, and the ability to do both rotations, they really play into each other, because the skills I learned as a project manager really benefited me as a business analyst. So I'm based in Fareham, but I've travelled to about, I think, another 3 offices And while I'm based in Fareham, I spend some days at home and some days in the office based on my team. So I'd say I'd spend about 2 days every week in the office. And it's just good. It's a great way to build your network as well, being in the office. So it's really useful. I'm an advocate for being in the office. But yeah, the most surprising thing I would say about when I started at Zurich was, number one, you don't have to be technical to be in IT. That was a clear misconception I had. And I was always worried that I was going to get found out and that someone was going to realise I'm not as technically savvy as they thought I was. But that's just not the case. And also the amount of opportunities are there. So I am currently, so I started September, and I am even outreach coordinator for our cultural awareness network. I reverse mentor one of our key executives. I run the grad community committee, so that's about 80 grads across the business that come together. So yeah, I am a liaison between our accessibility and inclusion network and ops and IT. So there's plenty of things to be done, even if the day job just isn't enough for you at a point. And I think we've been asked to give some words of encouragement, and it hasn't been long since I applied for jobs. So yeah, I've been there, and I can recall it very well. I have two. So the first one I would say is, whatever company you're looking to go into, make sure you know about the culture. The culture at Zurich is probably my number one thing that I absolutely love about the company. They look to embrace that change when it comes to diversity and inclusion. They look to better themselves, and even though they might not be achieving it now, that they're looking to kind of make sure that the people within our company reflects the people we serve, and that those are our customers. And the UK is a massive melting pot of diversity, and that's what we want Zurich to be, really representative of that. So make sure you just research the culture and it aligns with kind of your morals and values. And my other tip on your personal graduate journey is to try and be as much of you as you feel comfortable with, whatever you like, with whatever you do, whatever company you go into. If you come into Zurich, try and be yourself, because it's just more effort trying to be this someone else, because there's always going to be a place for you at the company that wants you. Zurich is very welcoming of that, and they're very friendly and they embrace change, like we said. So yeah, I would say always try and be you, even in your interviews and stuff like that. Try and embrace who you are, because that's probably my number one tip, and that's probably what helped me get into Zurich. And I think putting across who I was and my personality helped me quite a bit in my interview. So that's what I would say. And if anyone has any questions, you can see my name on the screen. You can message me on LinkedIn, and I will be here to kind of answer questions during the Q&A if anyone has any specific questions for my grad scheme.
Thanks for that, Zina. Really appreciate your insight there. I think there's a few questions for you in the chat. We'll come to some of those a bit later in the session. I think we're replying to people as well. Excellent. I believe our next slide might be a video, if we can flick to that slide. Oh, I'm mistaken. It's Maxwell. If you want to pop yourself on camera and on you, Maxwell.
Hi everyone, I'm Max. I'll be talking to you about the actuarial graduate scheme at Zurich. I, like Zina, started September 2021 on the life actuarial scheme after doing a degree in aerospace engineering. I'm sure there's a fair few of you who are wondering what an actuary is. It's quite often the first response I get when I tell people I'm training to be an actuary. Actuaries work in financial risk, so using math, statistics, and financial theory to determine the probability and financial impact of future events and risks, and then trying to reduce those impacts as much as they can. So it's quite a maths-heavy role, quite problem-solving, hence me coming from engineering into this, but also has a lot of communication skills that are very important in this role. Before I dive into what I do in a day-to-day role, I'll just give you a quick overview of how the scheme works. There's actually two actuarial graduate schemes. There's the life and the general insurance schemes. I'm on the life scheme, which is rotation-based. So I'll complete sort of 3 or 4 12 to 18 month rotations until I qualify. So we're deemed to be graduate actuaries up until qualifying, not just over the first 3 years. and qualifying generally takes between 3 and 5 years. And there's also the general insurance scheme, where you'll either go into reserving or pricing at the start, and you'll usually stay in that team throughout your graduate journey. So alongside our day-to-day jobs, we study and take exams towards becoming qualified actuaries. We study towards becoming fellows of the IFOA, the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries. Like I said, it's a minimum of 3 years to qualify for that. So it is quite a long process, but it's a rewarding one. So I'm still currently in my first rotation. I work in the life actuarial reporting team. The reporting team is responsible for calculating actuarial values and items on the balance sheet. For instance, present values of assets or the reserves that Zurich needs to hold in order to be comfortable to pay any future claims. Like John said earlier, we paid out £2 billion of claims, so we need to make sure that we've got enough money there to pay those out promptly. And then within my team, over my first year, I've done a variety of things in the team, from setting up and running the actuarial model we use to calculate the values we use, then interpreting and analysing those results, to then actually taking those results and putting them into regulatory submissions and results presentations for the board, for group, and for the regulators. I've learned a lot in my first year. It's been a steep learning curve, but a really good learning curve. I've learned a lot on the technical side of my role, the very actuarial nitty-gritty stuff, but also the more generic soft skills, sort of communication skills, presentations, and people management. I think it's a really good balance having the support of the wider graduate scheme to build those more general work skills, so you're becoming a more rounded professional, not just an actuary. Also, I found that we're always encouraged to find what we enjoy in any aspect of the role, and then given time and resources to really pursue those interests, which is something I found really helpful, and I really feel like I've got the most out of this year by being able to do that. So overall, if anyone's looking for a maths-based career, or if you've already decided a career in actuarial is for you, I think Zurich's actuarial scheme is a great place to be. I came, as I said, from an engineering background, so I knew very little about insurance or finance in general, but that's never been a barrier for me. The way the scheme is set up and the infrastructure of it means that you're always able to learn what you need to learn, and you never feel like you're at a disadvantage. There's a very supportive network, both from the exam side of things and your day-to-day work. So there's plenty of support for exams. They are quite big exams, but you get plenty of study days and resources to help you feel best prepared for those as you can. My little piece of advice, which is sort of similar to what Zinat was saying, how you don't have to be super technical to work in IT. You don't have to have heard of what an actuary is to be an actuary at Zurich. There's plenty of opportunity if you like maths that you can get into this role. I've heard people say an actuary is one of the best jobs you've probably never heard of, and I'd say Zurich is a pretty good place to do it as well. So thank you all for listening, and good luck to everyone in whatever you might choose to pursue.
Excellent. Thanks, Maxwell. I believe we're going to end.
Hello, my name is Anila, and I started on the finance graduate scheme last year, so September 2021. Can you all, I just want to make sure you can all hear me, actually.
We can hear you.
Okay. So on the finance graduate scheme, you'll complete 3 12-month rotations across finance departments. So you won't just be in one team for the 3 years, it will be 3 different teams. This can include financial reporting team, expenses team, or business partnering team. I've just finished my first rotation, which was in the P&C reporting team. My role included completing balance sheet reconciliations and reporting monthly premium and commission numbers. So this involves a lot of working with other teams. So one of the teams I worked with were underwriting. So they provide the provisional debits for premium and commission each month. Provisional debit is basically an accrual. So we accrue for the premium and commission we expect to receive for that month. So these provisional debits need to be posted because the actual figures don't get recorded until after the month-end close process has finished. So we need to put in an accrual, which is what we call the PD. The underwriters submit the PDs that they think are a good guideline on what has been or will be written in the month. And then when we do our month-end close reporting, we also work with the respective business partners. So they have a direct relationship with the brokers. So they know what numbers we should be expecting, what will be like affecting these numbers. So if there are variances in the forecast numbers compared to the actual numbers, the business partners will have an explanation for it. So it's up to us to go and speak to them, discuss what's going on, and then write up commentary. So the rotations in finance all involve different skill sets and have different responsibilities, but they all require you to build relationships and work closely with other teams, which is great for networking. My current rotation is with the life business partnering team, and I work closely with a number of other teams, which includes performance management and some actuaries as well. On the finance grad scheme, you'll be studying an accounting qualification of your choice. I'm currently doing ACCA, and the other person on the finance grad scheme is doing CIMA. I'm really enjoying the grad scheme so far. There's so many opportunities to develop yourself, make connections, and get a good overview of the finance function. As a finance cohort, we have regular team events. So there's a group called TAPG, which stands for Trainee Accountant Progression Group. So this includes the other finance grads, apprentices, interns, and others who are studying accounting qualification. So a couple of times a year we get together, we have like workshops, we have team days, and stuff like that. There's also loads of opportunities to get involved in other activities. So I've been a part of holding interviews for apprentices. I've done some Teach First events at secondary schools. I've organised raffles. I've organised charity challenges, and I recently became chair of a ZCT committee. So my word of advice is the more you put into your grad scheme, the more you get out of it. And the good thing about Zurich is how welcoming and lovely everyone is. It's so easy to approach someone if you need help, if you want to get involved in something, or if you just want to understand their role in their team. Everyone's always willing to make time for you, and it's the best way to expand your network and get involved in activities and events. And I know someone asked a question about, I think, are there social events? Yeah, there are. There's loads of like team lunches, team events, and then every summer and every winter, we also have a brochure that goes live, and you can pick a charity event to do with your team. So there's always loads going on. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Anila. I'm going to come on then to share some information with you actually about our business programme before we move on. Apologies. We did have a video prepared, but unfortunately we're just having a few issues with that. So I just wanted to take a few moments to talk you through the business management programme. I know I've seen some questions in the chat as well. So our business management programme is a 27-month programme. You have the opportunity to rotate around different areas of the business. So this really is designed for anyone that perhaps after what you've heard today, nothing is sort of particularly jumping out to you, but you're thinking that you'd like to explore the industry and the business in a bit more depth before deciding what exactly it is that you'd like to focus on as your sort of permanent opportunity. So a number of different rotations that you can undertake. Your first rotation is 9 months, and then that is followed by 6-month rotations. Again, equally as supported by the graduate program manager and also, buddies, your rotation manager as well. So lots of great support there and a great opportunity to really understand the business in more detail. And as part of this program, you will also have the opportunity to complete the level 6 senior insurance professional apprenticeship, which is completing your Chartered Institute of Insurance qualification. That forms part of the session. So again, lots of projects we've involved with and lots of different rotations. So I just thought I would mention that programme as well. And the programme could be based in any of the locations that we talked about in the beginning. You may be expected to sort of move around as part of the programme, so something worth considering as well. We do provide financial relocation support if that is the decision that you choose to make, but just wanted to highlight that programme as well. So now I'm going to come on to our application process, and I wanted to talk you through the different online assessments that you would be tasked with if you do decide to apply to Zurich, and give you some insight into what you can expect. So after you've applied for the programme, as long as you meet all of our minimum criteria, the first stage that you'll be invited to is our online assessment, Captivate. I've taken a screen grab here from the actual assessment that you'll be tasked with. As you can see, there's a number of different tiles that will come up that you'll have to work through, and we anticipate the assessment takes around about 45 minutes. So our online assessment is focused on your strengths. So it's a strengths-based exercise that really explores your behaviours, your preferences, and as you can see at the bottom, there is a working with numbers tile as well. And hopefully as well, you'll feel that this is a really immersive experience for you to understand more about Zurich. We felt that was really important as you go through the process to still get to grips with the type of work that you could be faced with. So at this stage, we'll just give you that realistic insight into what it's like to work at Zurich, and introduce you as well to a little bit more about our culture. I've seen some questions in the chat as well about that. And you'll be presented with some scenarios that relate to our work, so that you can gain a better understanding of what we do, and this will help you learn more about what you'll be doing if you do join the scheme. So there's no video questions in here. It's rank and pick questions and slider questions, all about preferences and ways of working and your sort of behaviour style as well. If you pass this online assessment stage, you'll then be progressed to our next stage assessment, which is our job simulation and video stage. And again, a slight screenshot there of what you can expect when you go into the system. And this is slightly different. So this is a blended assessment of some video questions and some written questions and some rank questions as well. You have to work through the job simulation in chronological order, because what you're invited to do is work on a project. So you'll be given some different sources of information to work through, some packs to read through of information, and then some questions around how you might approach that. Again, some written exercises around how you might approach that as well. There's different information for you to read through and answer those questions. Again, hopefully you'll feel that the work is representative of what we do. There's a number of different scenarios, and it is a fictitious project that you'll be working on. So you'll be asked to imagine that you're working in the role that you have applied for, and just complete different assessments. And like I say, that was a mixture of video and interview questions. I will come on to the full application process in a moment, but just some kind of top tips as well here that we thought would be worth noting. I think if we could just pop back to the previous slide. So I definitely recommend, doing your research into Zurich. It's really important, not only for candidates to have that understanding, but so that you feel that Zurich is, the right place for you. And hopefully today you've had that insight and overview into us as a business and our culture as well. We also recommend that before you do the assessments, when you're invited to do them, you will be sent a link to the preparation hub, and there's an opportunity to do some practice tests if you wish to do so. Always recommend just taking that time to do that. It's also worth, particularly in the job simulation, we're really keen to see your personality shine through. So don't be afraid to, be really authentic, show your personality. I think that's really important. And just making sure that your motivations as well are clear. This is more so particularly at that final assessment stage. So if we come on to the next slide, I'll just recap the whole application process for those of you that might be interested in submitting your applications. So stage 1 is the online application stage. You'll just be asked to complete a short application form, and this will also include some questions around your eligibility to our programs, and just help us check that you meet the requirements of the program as well. So all that being good, you'll then be invited to our online assessment stage, which is that first slide I showed you of Captivate. If you pass this stage of the assessment, you'll then progress through to our job simulation. And then after that, there is a final assessment. And this is your opportunity really to meet with the business area that you've applied for, to meet with that team, be it in person or online. I think there'll be a blended approach for this next year. And this is really where we'll be looking to hear about your motivations for the programme, what you know about Zurich, and then it will be a strengths-based interview, and then some of the more technical streams schemes do have perhaps some technical questioning or technical assessment associated with them as well. But when you do get invited to that stage, we do host a pre-briefing call to make sure that you feel well prepared. You'll have another opportunity to meet with some of the graduates that are currently on that stream to ask them any questions, and obviously an opportunity as well to meet with the business at that stage. Hopefully what you've heard today has excited you and you've heard something that you're interested in applying in. You just worth noting that we can only accept one application from you. So it's just about being clear about which programme you'd like to apply for and only submitting one application. In terms of our timeline, our applications close on the 30th of October, which is next Sunday. I definitely recommend an early application. We'd obviously love to hear from you. Well, like I say, if you apply and meet all of the minimum criteria, you will straight away be invited to complete our Captivate assessment. Every person that applies will then have a week to complete each stage of the application process. Obviously, unless you have any sort of reason, then you can get in touch with us and hopefully we can help to accommodate you there. And then last chance to complete the job simulation is by the 14th of November. The team will then come away, take some time to review all of our applications, and we'll be shortlisting for final stage interviews to take place late November, early December, with a view that hopefully you'll have an outcome from Zurich by Christmas time, and the programme starts next September as well. So that's our application timeline. I can see we've got quite a few sort of questions in the chat. So I think that's everything from me. And I'll hand back to Career Map for any questions.
Thank you so much. A really insightful presentation, and I think especially the top tips will be really helpful for those of you looking to get your application in. Just make a note of that deadline though, so if you are applying, make sure that you have all those dates, those ones that were just mentioned in November and this month as well, so that you can get on top of that. So many of the questions have been answered already, so thank you so much for as the Zurich team for typing in the chat and answering so many of these questions really fully. But I don't know if you guys want to come back on, or if you just want me to give you questions. I'm not sure who is best placed to speak to which one, but let's start with Yasmin. Is there a certain characteristic that you look for in all candidates?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and anyone else feel free to chip in here. I think people that are really driven and motivated and passionate, I think it's really important that you have a desire to do whatever it is that you're applying for. That will really shine through. People that are really driven to go and explore the business and take on as many opportunities as they can. People that are really open-minded as well, and just want to put themselves out there, involve themselves as much. Those are also the people that will get the most from the programs as well. I don't know if anyone else has any sort of thoughts there. John, I know you've worked with quite a few of the grads over your time as well.
I would say just be you. Zurich is Zurich is a very inclusive sort of environment, and we benefit from having real, normal, down-to-earth, straightforward people with all of their cool bits and all of their odd bits. And I've got plenty of those, and I share them with everybody at work. So I would just say, make sure that your application reflects the real you, and that will be exciting for us to engage with.
Just a quick one from me as well, sorry. I'd say a willingness to learn is always what I've realised across all grads, across every scheme. Everyone has a real willingness to learn and be open-minded, like Sophie said. So that would be a tip of mine as well.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, salary and benefits for graduates, and then also this person Mo is asking also about the salary and benefits in a full-time role after your graduate scheme.
Yeah, absolutely. So our starting salaries for this year vary from each programme, but our minimum salary this year is $29,500. We do advertise all our salaries. So when you go onto the adverts, which I believe Megan is going to pop into the chat for you, so you can have direct links to apply, you will see which salary is associated with which programme you're looking to apply for. In terms of benefits, our graduates are welcome to all of the benefits that any other employee would be able to have as well. So it's all the same. We'd like to standardize it. You're considered just the same as anybody else. So our wider package includes 25 days holiday with the option to buy and sell. We have a 12% pension contribution. We do operate an annual bonus scheme based on obviously company performance and personal performance as well. We also offer private medical insurance and life assurance as well. So there's lots of benefits. And again, we do have a page on our website. I'll try and link it in the chat for everyone that covers all of our wider benefits. We try and be as transparent as possible about that. But if there was anything specific anyone was interested in knowing, then do let me know and I'll try and come back to you in the chat as well.
That's really helpful. Thank you. Okay, so Veronica asks, what type of work experience would make me stand out?
That's a good question. Any work experience really is good experience. And I guess what's really important is how you use that experience to describe, when you're working on a question and how you approach that. So any work experience is good experience, whether it be volunteering, whether it be an internship, actual just work experience, or any sort of part-time roles that you have. I really kind of encourage people to talk about different experiences that they've had. There's nothing specific that we'd be looking for, but any internships that you've done that may be relevant to the business area you're applying for could definitely make you stand out.
Great, thank you. So there are a few people asking about culture, and I know you touched on culture as well, and I think everyone individually touched on culture a little bit. But I guess, are there any core cultural similarities this person's asking across the different business functions? Are there any central values or principles across the whole business?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to open this to the grads or John to answer.
I know there was a big diversity and inclusion, definitely, that came through, and sustainability as well.
Yeah, I mean, you'd expect me to say sustainability. I also sponsor our Pride network internally, so that there's plenty that you can get involved with on a range of what we call ERGs, or employee resource groups, where we have teams of people working internal and externally to drive through a bunch of themes. I guess culture is something that's really hard to kind of put into words, but hopefully the people that you're seeing and hearing from today give you a sense of what it's like to work at Zurich and what the culture is like. I would say it's the nicest place I've ever worked. I've worked with IT services companies. I've worked with global consultancies. I've worked in big companies and small companies. I worked in Zurich when I was a consultant, and so got to see a little bit of it, both in different parts of the world and here in the UK. And I, am here today because I love the culture that we have here. I think it's a very warm and comfortable environment where people can be honest with each other. I think it's a very flat organization. This is my home office. I don't normally have it sort of blurred out. I know it's blurred out on your screen, but that's just because it's a bit untidy and I was feeling a bit nervous. If it was just me and the normal team, they would be able to see the real horror. It's a very, I would say, open and honest kind of culture, and we aim to kind of keep it that way and attract people that want to be working in somewhere like that.
I mean, yeah, I would 100% agree with John. It's, like you said, there's a culture there where everyone is kind of equal, which is odd. I've interviewed all the execs, including John, and they were all super friendly and willing to kind of teach, but they're also willing to learn. So like it was mentioned, diversity and inclusion is a really big thing at Zurich, and embracing it and trying to have a company that reflects that. So yeah, we have loads of ERGs, like John said. We have a cultural awareness network, we have women in innovation, accessibility and inclusion, and pride. And I think in the cultural awareness network that I'm on the committee for, there's about 420 members, and we work with our kind of people team to work on outreach and kind of embrace those in our policies and stuff like that as well. So that's why I'm now a mentor to one of our executives, and I'm just a grad, teaching her about my life experiences as someone from a diverse and female background, obviously. So it really shows a willingness to learn, I think, from everybody. And yeah, that encouragement and that friendliness is just something that you can't get away from in Zurich, no matter the business area you go into.
Yeah, I think that really comes through as well. Okay, so Chloe was asking, do you always get a role at Zurich once the graduate scheme is over? And I think, Sophie, you said that yes, the roles are permanent. And people were asking for more details about how does that transition work?
Yeah, really good question. So absolutely, all of our opportunities are permanent, and there is definitely a role for you at the end of that programme. In terms of that transition, for some of our more rotational programmes, it will be about working out, where it is that you want to go, and the graduate programme manager will fully support you in that transition to make sure that we found a role that we really feel, something that you want to do, plays to your strengths and aligns to your sort of future ambition as well. So that transition is really well supported. Obviously, some of our other streams, for example, finance or actuarial, will have a slightly more defined path at the end, just given the nature of what you'll be doing throughout that programme. So if you're not on a program that sort of specifies what that end looks like, you're helped with that transition to identify which area of the business it is that you will end up in at the end.
So people asking about the minimum entry requirements. So is this the stage before you take your initial assessment? There's a certain qualifications that you have to reach, and could you give us some more details about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the entry requirements vary from stream to stream. Most of our streams require you to have the right to work upon application, bar our actuarial programs where we can sponsor individuals. Beyond that, we're looking for a 2-1 or above predicted or achieved in your degree. Some of our programs do specify more sort of specific types of degree. If you're unsure on that, I believe our email is still up on the slide, so please do feel free to contact me or the team directly if you've got any questions on that. Again, we also do have some UCAS points requirements and a minimum of GCSE maths and English grade C or above. Beyond that, it is just people that are really interested in that specific program, and like I say, if you do pass those minimum criteria, then you will be invited to complete the first online assessment.
And I've just dropped that email in the chat as well. I was just going to say, Megan, I think oh, okay, cool. Sorry, it wasn't coming up as a link for me, but now it is, so perfect. Thank you. Cool. And all right, next question. What about for someone who wanted to work with Zurich internationally? Are there any roles? This person is asking, so Zoe's asking about Hong Kong. I think there are a few other international based questions as well.
Yeah, so at the moment, all of our programs that we talked about today are based in the UK. Our actuarial programs do run an international academy, so there is potentially the option there to have some travel. I'm not entirely sure about any of the others, whether other people have had those sorts of opportunities, but what I will say is that Zurich really encourages internal mobility and internal movement. So if there were other opportunities post-programme that you're interested in, that's definitely welcomed and encouraged as well if you did want to explore different opportunities.
Thank you. Okay, so this one from Ash might be one for their current grads or former grads. What do you think will be the biggest change in the industry in future, and how can existing students best prepare for any changes? It's a big question, so no pressure.
I can take a stab at it. It is a loaded question. I'd say the biggest thing right now that Zurich is doing, and I think the industry, as we all know, insurance is a big legacy industry. It's been around for many years. Innovation right now and that kind of change is something that Zurich, I know, are trying to embrace, and is quite a big thing right now in the industry. So you're getting things like insurance tech startups becoming more of a thing, and that innovative side of how can we improve the whole process and make sure that we can kind of stop things before they happen to our customers, so that they don't have to have like claims and stuff like that. And I'd say the best way to embrace that now as a graduate is learning about it, number one, and just, yeah, I'd say that that's kind of essential, because there's not much as a graduate you can do when you don't know what you don't know, so you're trying to learn yourself. But I'd say embracing it and don't be resistant to change, which is something I struggled with, but trying not to be resistant to change and encouraging it, if anything, especially in a big industry like insurance, is where I would say you should start.
That was a really good answer, actually. I think the only thing I would add is that every industry, we reflect society. We insure individuals, we insure businesses, and we insure public sector organizations and community entities. And so as a result, we just reflect what's going on out there. And what's going on out there is like heaps of change. And a lot of that is to do with how industries are changing as they respond to environmental threat. And every industry that we work with is changing quite rapidly in response to environmental threat. So, you know, as the world's cars get electrified, we have to change because we have to be prepared to insure electrified fleets. That actually is a much more difficult thing than it might sound. As our energy systems change, we have to change to ensure that we can do that. As our international transportation and logistics change, we have to change in order to do that as well. So we're having to change at the pace that the world around us is changing, and that used to be relatively slow, which is why a lot of insurers aren't kind of known for really changing rapidly. But you know, things are really different now. So you know, the points that were just raised about the ability to innovate, getting involved in different types of innovation, getting involved in different types of ideation and creation are a big part of what you know, will be needed going forward in our industry.
Mm-hmm. And I have a related question for you, actually. So come back.
Okay.
Well, I was just thinking, we had a session earlier in the week on like company mission and finding your purpose in your career, especially as like a young graduate or someone who's just entering the workplace. And I think we did have a question about the mission of the business, or like the purpose of the business. So I wondered if you could tell us from your perspective, like what the real mission of the business is and the work that you're doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, strictly speaking, our mission is to be, you know, the best UK insurer as measured by our 4 stakeholders. I kind of put that in the answer to that question. That's the definitive statement. But the reality is, if you go to the very top of the organization in Switzerland, the aim is to be one of the most responsible and impactful organizations in the world. That's a pretty high bar. I get that's a pretty high bar, but that is genuinely kind of what we're trying to do. And we're trying to use the influence that we have, you know, through insurance, which is, it does have a lot of influence because a lot of businesses and organizations cannot progress what they want to do without insurance. So we want to use that influence as a positive force for good to challenge and encourage organizations to move faster, particularly on planet related and climate related topics, but also on a whole host of social topics as well. So you know, we are a commercial enterprise. We do want to be here for another 100 years, 150 years for the group, and we do want to make sure that we can deliver on those outcomes. But you know, we're confronted as a world and as a business by some pretty big threats right now, and we've got a responsibility to respond to those as well.
Okay. Cool. So back to the application questions. We have a lot of application questions asking for top tips, how to succeed. I wonder if there's any extra, I know you gave some real top tips before, but any extra tips, especially someone asking about the simulation or the application process, the work tasks and things that you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just say to take your time with each of the assessments. Don't rush into anything. Like I say, when you'll be invited to complete the assessments, there will be a link to the preparation hub, which is supplied by our provider Capfinity. So there are some practice assessments that you can do there. And I would just say not to overthink it. The first stage assessment, Captivate, is all about you and your preferences and your values and behaviours. So there's nothing there, you know, to trick you. None of the assessments are designed to do that. So just really encourage you to take your time with it. And again, with the job simulation, just don't be overwhelmed by it when you go into it. Work through each tile as they come up. There'll be a number of different sources for you to read through. You might find it helpful to have a pen and pad to hand, to be making some notes. Again, the only part of the job simulation assessment that is timed are the video questions. So it's completely up to you to be able to take your time with it, read through the information, digest it, and then provide your responses. A couple of video questions in there, some written questions, and some rank as well. Whilst I say take your time with it, it's not designed to take a huge amount of time out of your diary. So at the same time, don't overthink it. You know, if what's coming to you is your sort of gut instinct, then go with that. Often that's always right. So just don't overthink any of the assessments. And equally, as you approach them, if you do have any questions, you can email us. We do also have some hints and tips videos on our website that break down each of the assessments for you. So I definitely encourage you, if you are planning on applying, to review those as well before you look to dive into the assessments.
It's really helpful. And for those of you watching who are about to get your application in, I would highly recommend coming back to that little piece of this recording so you can get all of those tips again. Okay, so we have a lot of questions about how long people stay at Zurich after completing the scheme. Also, how long people stay in the business in general, what the career progression looks like within the business.
Yeah, really good question. We do have a really good retention rate of our graduates, and we really hope and encourage that you stay. There's lots of opportunities beyond the program. The program is absolutely just the start of your career with Zurich. We'd encourage you to continue, your kind of ongoing journey with Zurich, whether that be taking on another professional qualification, it's a common opportunity. For another role internally. We do really encourage that people find what it is that they really want to do. And if you speak to anyone that's been at Zurich for a number of years, they'll all have done a number of different roles in their time. And that's what makes them really rounded individuals, but equally really fulfilled in the roles that they're doing. So hopefully, I think we've got a good kind of retention. I don't have a specific sort of number off the top of my head, but people do stay, and hopefully for a long time as well. This is absolutely a career, not a job. So yeah, John, I don't know if you've got anything.
I mean, the only thing I'll add at the long end, we have regular, at least twice a year, I think, 30-year anniversaries. So there are some people who spend their entire careers here, and it's delightful to meet them and hear their stories and do that. We just had a 100-year anniversary celebrations, and we combine that with the most recent bunch of people that have been here for that length of time. So it's pretty unusual, I would say, today to kind of spend that long in one company. But it kind of gives you a sense that for some people, they really enjoy the culture and they stay here for their entire careers. But there's plenty of people, joining and moving through the organization at different paces. But for the most part, I think we've got quite an attractive culture that tempts people to stay. And we also have quite good experience, particularly in the last few years, because when we've started measuring it, of people who have left the organization to go and look elsewhere and have come back within a couple of years as they felt that maybe the grass wasn't greener after all. So it's really nice to see that, and really nice to hear that there are some things that they value even more when they leave the organization, and it encourages them to come back. So that gives you a few hints and tips, I guess.
Yeah, that's always a strong indication of a good culture when people are actively coming back. Well, we only have a minute or so left. I wonder, Sophie, if you could remind us of the deadline again, because I know it was quite soon, so just so everyone has it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the deadline for applications is Sunday, the 30th of October. Absolutely recommend you getting your application in early. It gives you slightly longer to work through those online assessments as well when you're invited to them. And equally, any questions off the back of this, the email address is on the slide and in the chat. Please do feel free to connect with any of us on LinkedIn as well. We'd be happy to hear from you and just really welcome your application and look forward to reviewing it as well.
Thank you so much. And to everyone watching, make sure you have that link that Megan posted in the chat and the email address as well. And yeah, that is it from us. Well, thank you so much for coming to speak to us today. And it's been really insightful. I feel like there's been so many tips and advice and a really good insight into the culture, which it's hard to tell, when you're a graduate, you're looking in from the outside, you're just trying to figure out like what the business is about. But I think it's come through really strongly today. So yeah, we're very grateful for your time, and thank you so much.
Thanks all. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.